children feel about you living in a war zone?
They're not happy. I think, you know, my wife died 3 years ago. We had gone to Lebanon together. And I had never intended to go there. I mean, you know, I was approached 7 years ago by a headhunting company. I was getting ready to retire, and this guy said, how do you fancy working in Beirut? I said, you must be joking. That's certainly not where I envisaged my retirement taking place. But he persisted, and eventually I went. As soon as I arrived, I knew. It was like a calling from God. I knew I had to be there. I knew that there were things I could do that would help in a small way. But my family were horrified, and particularly during the war, it was very difficult because I constantly get these calls begging me to go back. But you know, what isn't quite understood is that probably here in America and in the UK, all the news gives you the idea that the war is everywhere, all the time. Everyone's being blitzed and blasted. But of course, if you're there, it's not like that. You change you recalibrate your scale of risk. And actually, I had a responsibility to 1,300 children. I could not walk away. I could not walk away from these Lebanese people who trusted me and on whom they relied. So, but I accept that. It was a bit of a dichotomy. It's difficult. My children, my grandchildren were back in the UK. I think they've just about forgiven me now. But yeah, it's a very good question. It's hard. There isn't an easy answer.
These are questions right after his talk.
If anyone wants to ask online, please feel free to do so.
We're in the meeting house of Central.
An endowment which relies on secure investments over the long term. Are you going to invest in Lebanon, or are you going to invest somewhere else?
No, we won't invest in Lebanon. No, the bank account we use is in the UK, in London. And you know, money that's given to us will be funneled through to London, and we'll build it that way. We have a Rathbones ethical investment brokers who are investing the money for us, and as we get money coming in, we transfer it from the bank to be invested in the markets, and that's very effective.
I have two questions. One is a factual question. Can you hear me? Yeah. Do the students live there, or are they day students?
They're day students. We used to have a lot of boarders at the school. Because if you think back 50, 60 years ago, in the Gulf states, there was a lot of wealth there from oil and so on, but there was very little education. And so wealthy people from the Arab states would send children to Brummana. It was a well-known destination for them to, in a strange way, learn the ways of the West, learn English, have an education. That obviously has changed because now there are international schools all over the Middle East. But at the same time, it's a geopolitical issue because the Saudis decided to prevent their own people and people of places like the UAE travelling to Lebanon. And the reason for that is because the Hezbollah organization is supported by Iran. Right? Now they are Shia, and the Saudis are Sunni. So they're kind of sworn enemies, if you like, or they're rivals. So the Saudis felt that the Lebanese government wasn't doing enough to keep Hezbollah quiet and to stop the influence of Iran on Hezbollah attacking Israel. So they said, right, we withdraw investment, we withdraw our people, and that had a direct impact. So nowadays, our students are day students. They come from the town of Brummana and Big Mary and Rumi, the Mount Lebanon region, because the school is on Mount Lebanon. It's 2,500 feet above sea level, overlooking the city of Beirut. I have the best view from my office I have ever had in my career. It's wonderful. I can see the Mediterranean all the way to Byblos, and I can see the city of Beirut. So they come from the Mount Lebanon area, and they come from Beirut, and they come from the coastal area of Juni and so on. And we run 38 buses, which bus them into the school. And that's the way it works. And the education we provide, which, as I say, is this kind of liberal Quaker education, which really emphasises the importance of critical thought, analysis, thinking for yourself, independence of view, and a kind of empathetic approach, is very popular. People want it. They want their children, what they think of it as a modern education, not one where you learn facts, you regurgitate them for an exam, and you leave. And indeed, it's the kind of education that I very much believe in as well.
So my second question is more like what you just referred to. You said you have all of the 40 political parties and the 18 or 14 different religions represented there. Is that because within each sect there are conservatives who want their children to have the very strict upbringing, and there are also people who have a broader...
Correct. That's absolutely correct. And we do not teach religion formally at all, and we do not teach politics as a subject at all, for obvious reasons. But obviously we approach political topics through things like the Model United Nations programme, and we will approach religious matters. I'm putting Quakerism aside from this, but we would approach religious matters through what we teach in the classroom. For example, a couple of years ago I taught a novel called Life of Pi. You may be familiar with it, or maybe you've seen the film. And it's about survival, and it's about the idea of the universe of God. And I had a class of 16, and I had no idea actually what their religious backgrounds were, but it all came out in discussing this novel, and we had some very interesting, peaceful discussion. But because it wasn't about teaching them about Christianity or Islam or Judaism, it wasn't. It was talking about the novel and what we can learn from that. So that's the way it happens.
Yeah.
The other thing that just occurs to me is 40% of our children are on financial aid. So we do have a great variety of socioeconomic backgrounds we have some parents who are extremely well off, and we have others who have nothing. And I personally think that's very healthy, because I've always believed the school is a microcosm of society, and you should be learning to get on with everybody, whatever their backgrounds are, because they're all part of the human race.
This is a question about the economy. In light of the picture you present, I'm surprised that everyone's not on financial aid. And where does money come from? How do people live? This may be naive, but
No, it's a very fair question. Well, I think the first thing I would say is that it's a cash economy. So here, you use these cards. Fortunately, I brought my credit card with me to the USA, and I've been using it liberally since I've been here, but I'd almost forgotten how to use it. Because what happened in Lebanon was that basically the banks crashed. There was a run on the banks, people withdrew money in panic, and then the banks had nothing. So there were capital controls. Money, which we have dual currency, we have dollars and we have lira. So the money in dollars was reduced to 10% of its value, because you could only withdraw it in lira, and the lira went from 1,500 lira to the dollar to 140,000 lira to the dollar. It's now stabilised at around about 90,000. And actually that's fine, because we know where we stand now. So what happened was there was a kind of process of dollarization, where from things being paid for or charged in lira, gradually over a couple of years, it changed to being charged and paid for in dollars. So what, I'm going to show you something. So this is what you call a buck, okay? A US dollar. We call this fresh money, okay? Fresh money, because it's real, right? So we call these fresh dollars. That's how it works. So we've gone back, it's not quite a barter economy. I mean, the private sector has done quite well, and money does come into the country. The Lebanese are remarkably loyal to their country. They send money back in, and in the summer, I mean, it's incredible. The country doubles its population. They all come back. It's irrespective of the war, they come back and they spend large sums of money. So gradually, the dollarization, the 2 years of dollarization was very painful. And a lot of people suffered hugely in that. But now it's a bit better, and you know, we gradually, very slowly, managed to raise people's income, and people have been able to pay a bit more as the country's got back to normal in the private sector. So the private sector has adapted and been versatile, whereas the public sector is still in the doldrums.
Hi, I was wondering if the school has any sister relationships with other Quaker schools elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we established a link with a school called Sidcutt School, which is Quaker school in the south of England, and we have taken groups of students there. And of course, one of the benefits of this, I am a Scotsman, so you understand my meanness, but one of the benefits of having a link with a school, especially in a situation as we are, is we can go, as long as we can get the money for the airfares, we have a free stay there, because the school looks after us. And the same is true, obviously, for the school in England coming over to Lebanon, and we've done that too. In fact, Sidcutt School came to our Model United Nations conference 2 years ago, which was great, and they debated with schools in Lebanon and a school from the Gulf that came as well. That was for our 150th anniversary. However, there is one other thing I want to say about this particular... Oh yes, and the other thing we've done with Sidcutt is we've joined in something called Foxtrot. Foxtrot. Now you probably think that's a dance, but of course it's to do with George Fox, one of the Quaker founders. And in England, in the autumn, and what you call the fall, Quaker schools gather together and they go on a sojourn to the north of England, to George Fox's birthplace, and they learn about his life and values and beliefs, etc. So on 3 occasions we've sent over 4 or 5 students and a teacher to go on Foxtrot so that they learn more about the origins of the Quaker movement. However, just before I came, everything seemed to happen just that week that I came over here. We had a visit from FUM. Now, Brummana hasn't really had very much to do with FUM because traditionally FUM has supported the Brummana High School on the West Bank, and Quiet, who were involved in this film, have supported Brummana High School. However, I was written to about 4 months ago by Kelly Callum, who is the General Secretary of FUM, and said, "We're going to be at Ramallah, we'd like to come and visit Brummana." And I thought, that's a great idea. So they came over for 3 days, the week before last, and they visited the school and met lots of people, and we took them out to dinner, we took them to Byblos, and so on, and we've established a link. But the jewel in the crown, please forgive me for using that metaphor, I know it's, you got rid of the monarchy a long time ago here, as I learned at independence, I think 250 years ago. But the jewel in the crown was that Rania, the principal of Ramallah, came with them, with 5 Quakers, and she visited the school, and we exchanged cards, and we're going to try and develop connections with Ramallah. The reason we hadn't is really to do with the Israeli situation and the fact you can't move from Israel to Lebanon and vice versa. You used to be able to do so. And funnily enough, the second day that this group of people were with us, the clerk to the Brummana meeting in Brummana, who is an old scholar at Brummana High School, told me, he said, I've been to Ramallah. He said, I went as a 10-year-old in 1962, and he visited, but it's really been cut off since then. So we're hoping that we can build on that, which would be great, because we've got a lot to learn from each other.
There's a question on Zoom, and for your awareness, we're at about 2:05, just for time.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a question on Zoom, Steve.
Thanks. So you're saying we're short on time, most of it?
No, just for awareness for David, because I think that there's...
All right. So if we were around the table there, if I were lucky enough to be able to be there in person, I would ask questions about what you like to teach the most. You talked a little bit about that and what teaching means to you. That's, I guess, the lesser of my two questions. The other one is, and I'm a member of the meeting where you are. Another member likes to speak of the term spiritual courage. And I've been trying to wrap my head around the concept and the phrase. And I'm wondering, it comes up in context of what you were talking about. So I was wondering what the phrase might mean to you, either to yourself or to the school or to the country.
Well, that's a difficult question, because it's a personal question. So, I'm a Christian, and I shouldn't say devout, but I'm a deep believer. And one of the reasons I like living in Lebanon is because I can express myself about my religious faith openly, and almost with pride, whereas I'm afraid in my country of birth that's no longer the case. You kind of have to explain to people why you're not a scientist, or why you're, somehow still stuck in the Stone Age, as some people think of it. Religion for me is something that's alive and well and is part of our lives, and spiritual life to me is extremely important. I take my cue from God. Now, and indeed, I believe that when I went to Brummana, I went there because I was called to do so. I can't really have any other explanation for it, because, as I say, Beirut was not top of my bucket list. I'm not a Quaker, but I greatly respect the Quaker movement and all that you do. I think I share spiritual beliefs with you, albeit through a slightly different channel. But yes, the spiritual part of my life matters, and the spiritual life of the students matter. Whatever it is. I have students who are Sunni Muslims, I have students who are Catholics, I have students who are Maronite Christians, or Orthodox Christians, or Druze. But because of the nature of the country, they express their religious beliefs at home, through their families and through their religious practices. They don't do it at school. What we share together at school is a belief in free speech, in free thought, in working together, in teamwork, in peacemaking, in resolving things by realizing we are better together than apart. So, what I would say about Brummana as a Quaker school is, if you were there, you would find it distinctly different from all other schools. But you might also find it distinctly different from Quaker schools in America. I mean, I've been to some Quaker schools here, and they are different because of the nature of the society in which you live. But believe you me, Brummana is a Quaker school. There is no question of that. Does that answer your question?
There were many ways to go with it. Thank you very much.
And by the way, I love teaching English literature. You know, when I became a teacher, I didn't really like young people very much. But But I did like English literature, and I thought, well, that's the way of kind of carrying on with it. And then as time went past, I learned to love young literature.
Do you have any questions?
I'm curious, when the students finish at Brummana, where do they go to university?
They go to, it's a very good question as well. 50% go to university in Lebanon. I mean, education is a premium in Lebanon. I mean, there are lots and lots of Lebanese universities, or universities in Lebanon. And virtually all our children go to university, without exception. They will go. It's the acme of their ambition to study all kinds of things. About 50% go to Lebanon, and about 50% go abroad. Many of them win scholarships. I mean, the universities in Lebanon realise how expensive university education is, and they offer dozens and dozens of scholarships. So somehow, they all seem to manage, one way or another, with help. Where do they go abroad? They come here. America is, you'll sometimes hear America called the Great Satan, by certain sects in the Middle East. But actually, for many people, it's the Great Savior. This is the land of the free. This is the land of opportunity. This is the land of the American dream. And a lot of Lebanese want dreadfully to come here and to not have to worry about what's going to happen the next day, but also to make their living, to make their future. And there is a very large Lebanese diaspora in the United States who have done very well for themselves one way or another. So they tend to come to the Ivy League universities here, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and so on, Columbia, and obviously they're. One thing I will tell you, actually, this is a nice little story. You've no idea how many parents come up to me, Lebanese parents, who uneducated themselves, or with limited education, will tell you, Mr. Gray, my son's just got a PhD in astrophysics from New York University, New York State University. And they puff with pride. I mean, it means so much to them. It's always a lovely moment. Education is so important to them because they realise that in giving education they have liberated their children. Yes.
Do you have concern about the students who are in the U.S. on student visas right now?
Not yet. But I mean, again, I think that there is a degree of ignorance outside America about the problems for foreigners and even American citizens inside America. I mean, when I came into this country, I was interrogated at the point of entry at Philadelphia Airport, very politely. I don't have any problems with how I was asked, but I was asked about 30 questions, in addition to having my visa, which I did have. So I realise things are different, things are changing, but I think what people abroad are more aware of, say in Lebanon, is the withdrawal of US aid, which was a great example to me of soft power.
Yeah.
It won America a lot of friends in poor developing countries. And in fact, the road that leads to Brummana High School was built by US aid. There's actually a plaque about 200 yards from where I live, thanking the American people for their generosity. So that makes a difference. And I know at Brummana, I mean, they are going to be affected by the withdrawal of US aid because they receive federal funds, etc. So that's very serious for them. But I know I'm not discouraging people from coming to America at all. Perhaps I'm naive, perhaps I hope that all this will pass. And of course, all things pass. Eventually. Yeah.
Rita.
I want to ask, has this been recorded? And if not, I would love to have some version of this whole program that I could share with people way far beyond our group
It's being
here.
recorded.
I don't know if it's been recorded or not.
Oh.
Yes, we have someone in the audience, Susanna Dodgson. I say that proudly because I don't want to seem as if I know nobody here, so is recording this for us.
Yes.
I don't know if the maestro behind the scenes is recording it as well or not, but she may or may not be.
She began to.
I've got
Okay.
everything. Yeah, I got everything.
Yes, gentleman at the back.
I found your presentation very inspiring. And thank you for your kind words to the United States. But it's not a question, it's a suggestion. It's related to what was just said about the recording. Your words are so inspiring. Have you thought of writing them down, like in a memoir, that the hope education brings, I think, would reach a wide audience?
Well, it's interesting you should say that. Last night, I attended a talk here by a Quaker lady who stayed on in Vietnam after the Americans left, and she's produced a book called, I think it's called They Who Stayed. Anyway, I bought a copy of the book, which is based on her diaries when she was in Vietnam, and she lived in kind of a neutral area between the north and the south. It was a very interesting talk, and I'm going to read her book. But something I've done, this has nothing to do with ever wanting to write things down, but I've been a school principal for 33 years, and every week I write a reflective diary on what I've done that week, and I publish it to all the staff and the governors of the school and so on. And the idea behind it is so that they feel included in the administration of the school, so they know what's going on, so that they don't feel just like a cog in a wheel, but that actually they're part of the decision-making process. And it's always gone down well with staff, so I've continued to do it. But I have thought maybe when I retire, I could sift through this these several trees worth of print and write something. And thank you for that suggestion, because that might just motivate me to do it.
And you've already retired, so get started.
Yeah, retirement is just a continuation of life, really.
Okay.
Thank you for coming and sharing. Is there a meeting house or a place of worship where there are active Quakers?
Yes, there is. We have a meeting house, which looks like, I suppose, any other meeting house I've ever been to around the world. It's lined with juniper trees just at the entrance to the school. It's a very dignified, plain building. We have assemblies in there, we have plays. We do observe silence. That is something we do anytime we meet together. We also have memorial services in the meeting house. But on Sundays, the local Quaker meeting, which is composed almost entirely of old scholars of Brummana High School, meet in what we call the meeting room, which is in the administration building, and they meet there at 10:30 on a Sunday. We've recently kind of expanded it a bit by doing this, so that people from elsewhere in the world can come to the meeting, because the numbers who come from Brummana are very small. It's a few people. And that's another thing, we don't proselytise at the school. If people want to become Quakers, that's great, but if they don't, well, that's fine too.
Thank you, friends. Thank you, David. Nicola, David.